Earlier, I met with a world-renowned piano virtuoso. A born and raised Philadelphian, he is an expert of swing. He has been honored by the National Endowment of the Arts as an NEA Jazz Master. Kenny Barron. I'm glad this worked out. I'm glad we could be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for inviting us into your home.
My pleasure.
I know you have a pretty busy schedule. You're getting ready to go out to Europe next week.
Yeah, next week, yeah.
Yeah. What's that like? You going, at this point, you've been on, thousands of stages. At this point, you going out on stages compared to when you were, 15, does it feel any different?
Yeah, you get tired faster, But it's always, I love to travel, so and I'm going to places I've been before.
Okay.
We're going to Turkey next week, Ankara and Istanbul, and then to Italy, and this is with the trio.
Yes, the trio.
So I'm looking forward to it. We'll be out for almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a good amount of time. So you were born and raised in Philadelphia.
Right.
You went to Germantown High School.
Right.
One of your first teachers was Vera Eubanks.
Right, exactly.
And that's I know she's the mother of the Eubanks brothers.
Right.
The sister of Ray and Tommy Bryan.
Right.
So that's a lot of history right there in culture.
Yes, it is.
What was that like?
It was great. I didn't realize how close the relationship was until I was actually on tour with a thing called 100 Gold Fingers. It was 10 pianists, and Ray Bryant was one of them.
Yeah.
And he told me, I think we're related by marriage.
Oh, okay.
And as it turns out, his uncle, his mother's brother, was married to my mother's sister.
Wow.
So we were related by marriage,
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I've been knowing the family for years. I remember when I was a kid, my mother and his mother would be on the phone almost every day.
Yeah.
Talking,
Yeah.
I remember her name was Eleanor.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know who Ray Bryant was at the time. I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So when you started playing piano, I know your brother plays saxophone too.
Mm-hmm.
And the record, you guys have One for Bird and on the Capers.
Oh yeah.
So what is that like growing up in a musical household like that? Were your parents were musicians too?
No, they weren't musicians. Okay. Bill, and I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and everyone was required to study piano. No matter what, you had to study piano. But Bill and I were the only ones who became professional musicians.
Okay.
But everyone could play piano.
Yeah. It was a musical household going on.
Yeah. And one of the things that helped was Bill had fantastic record collections, old 78s.
Okay, you got a fantastic collection of yourself right here too.
But he had old 78s, thick black records.
Yeah.
Bird and Dizzy and Wardell Gray and Dexter Gordon, who was his biggest influence was Dexter Gordon.
Yeah.
He loved Dexter Gordon, Fast Navarro, people like that. So I was around the music a lot.
Yeah.
And in Philly, I don't know if it still does. Philly at the time had a really great 24-hour jazz station. I don't know if it still does.
It does, but it's split up into classical and jazz. So classical during the day, jazz at night.
Okay. But it was 24-hour jazz then.
Okay.
Sometime in the late 50s.
Yeah.
Late 50s, yeah. So I got to hear the music a lot, and became really fascinated by it and attracted to it, and I loved it. I really loved it, yeah.
So was there a lot of music in your neighborhood when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, there were a lot of local places.
Okay.
Local places where young guys could play and work on their craft. There was a bar on Ridge Avenue. I lived near on Montgomery Avenue, but there was a bar, Ridge and Montgomery, Ridge and Columbia, called The Point. I was too young to get in at that time. I would go by and listen outside to the music, and eventually I became old enough to play in there. And then there was there were a lot of after hours clubs. Also, I was at some point old enough to play in. There was a place called the Northwest Club, also in Ridge and Columbia. I used to work in there with Jimmy Heath.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Heath and Mickey Roker.
Okay.
Bass player named Arthur Harper.
Yes.
And it was a really great experience. So Philly was great in that sense. There were a lot of places. There was a place on 15th Street, 15th and South, called the Sahara.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work in there. There was a place called the Postal Card on South Street.
Okay.
It was upstairs. So there were lots of places to play for a young guy, you know.
Yeah.
And of course there was Peps and Shovel
Right,
brought
classic.
in guys from New York, you know. So
Yeah.
so Philly was great.
So, you've just mentioned people like Jimmy Heath and younger people who were around your age. Did you get to play much with older people, or was it mostly you and the younger guys together? Or, how was that?
Yeah, I got to play chance to play with the older guys, and for me, Jimmy was older.
Okay, all right.
Jimmy was. I just did his very last record date last year. I think Jimmy was close to 90 or in his 90s or something like that.
Yeah.
But my brother got my very first gig, and they were all older guys, and older to me. I was like 14, 20. I mean 14, 15,
Yeah.
and they were in their 30s.
Okay.
So for me, that was old.
Yeah.
You know. But it was a great experience, and one of the things we had to do, it wasn't a straight ahead jazz gig. You had to play. It was called a cabaret.
Oh, okay.
So you had to play for singers, a singer. You had to play for a dancer, like an exotic dancer. You had to play for the audience dancing. You know, you had to play for a comedian.
Okay, so
It
you
was,
got to play for
like
people.
a show.
You know,
It was a show. You know, you had to do that. You know, and that's for me. That was some valuable experience. You know, I mean, one of the things I learned from doing that was repertoire.
Yeah.
You know, the dancers, exotic dancers would dance to Duke Ellington.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I learned a lot of songs, and the first gig I had, there was a singer on, and she came by my house to rehearse. And I remember Fanny was her name, Fanny Lingham.
Okay.
And I remember the song we rehearsed was called "Mean to Me."
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and there's certain things you never forget. You know, but the dancers would dance to Caravan and "You Go to My Head" and stuff like that. So it was a great experience. You know, really great.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you get to go to the Clef Club at all?
The Clef Club at the time wasn't in existence.
Oh, okay. So it's
But
before.
at the time, there were two unions, two musicians.
274, right? And
Yeah, there was a black union and a white union. And the Clef Club was the black union
Right.
at the time. I think the white union was
77.
local 77.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Clef Club came much later, and
Okay.
I did get a chance to play there a couple of times.
Because I know you used to have music on Sundays, right? The jam
Yeah.
sessions. and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
But I played there a couple of times. Yeah, I played there with my trio, as a matter of
Oh, yeah,
fact.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm the guy who runs the program, Love It Hines.
Yeah,
yeah. And, Jonathan Blake speaks so lovingly about him. You know, he's a really great teacher and inspiration. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's also one of the things, that makes Philly unique is that there's just so many musicians who come out of there from all these different generations. And
Yeah.
you oftentimes use a lot of Philadelphians in your bands, whether you're in your trio, quartet, quintet, Jonathan Blake, like you said, even Emmanuel on saxophone.
Yeah, I've used Jason, Justin
Faulkner, yeah.
Yeah.
So you continue to do that. So do you think, is that something that you think is important to continue?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, it's important. To give younger people, and then also people from my hometown.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
I love doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you go about deciding? Because you use trio, quartet, quintet often. How do you go about deciding? And your latest record was piano solo.
Yeah.
Solo piano. How do you go about deciding on what you're going to do for your projects? How do you develop that artistry?
It depends on what I've done in the past, but the solo thing was a suggestion from my longtime record producer in Paris, Jean-Philippe Allard. He produced a lot of the records I've done for Verve,
Okay.
Verve France. So I just happened to be there, and he said, "Listen, I'm starting this new label,
Yeah.
and I would really love to record you solo."
Yeah.
So I stayed a couple extra days. It was cool. It was a theater. We didn't record in the studio. It was in a very old theater, very ornate, very beautiful theater.
Okay.
So there was nobody in there but me.
Yeah.
Jean-Philippe, and the engineer.
Okay.
That was it. And this great piano.
Yeah.
Really great piano. So that's what came out. And then decided to call it The Source.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought about all the kinds of music that I liked and loved, and the people that have influenced me, Duke Ellington, Strayhorn, Monk, people like that. So,
I know when you started playing with Dizzy, you were recommended by James Moody.
Yeah, right.
And at that point, you had already been playing with Lee Morgan. At that point,
Yeah, short period.
Short periods.
Time, yeah.
So Dizzy lived in Philly at one point himself
he did,
too.
That's right.
So what was that like? What's it like playing with these Philly trumpet players like that?
Oh well, Dizzy was amazing. First of all, he was truly amazing.
Yeah.
The first gig I remember. Well, the way that happened, I had worked with Moody when I first moved to New York.
Right.
Moody decided to go with Dizzy with the small group, and I was walking on Broadway one day, and I ran into Moody, and he said, "Listen, Lalo Schifrin, who was Dizzy's pianist at the time, is leaving. Would you be interested in the gig?" I said, "Yeah,
of course."
I just gotten married and wasn't working. Yeah,
Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah, so I'm interested. So I went up to Birdland to talk to Dizzy. He never heard me play a note.
Yeah.
Just on Moody's recommendation, he hired me. So I was there for 4 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it was, like I said, it was a great experience. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
He played really good piano.
Right. Yeah.
Played really good piano. I mean, not a soloist, but he knew about chords and voicings.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a couple of nights we would be in a club, and it wasn't crowded the last set.
Yeah.
He would chase me away from the piano.
Really?
And he would just play and comp for Moody.
Mm.
And he knew what to play, knew how to comp.
Yeah.
So great.
Oh.
And also he knew how to treat people.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that's also very, very important.
Yeah. Right. Who are some of the other Philly trumpet players that you can think of that maybe were, kind of just maybe not spoken about as much as it should be?
Yeah.
That you could.
Well, I mentioned a guy named John Sprawn.
Right.
Yeah, who I think he only did maybe one recording with Train called Straight Street. There's Johnny Coles, who's fantastic. Yeah. And then some other guys. There was I don't know if he's still there. A guy named Andrew Aaron.
Okay.
Who may still be in Philly. Of course, Lee Morgan.
Oh, yeah.
But Lee was a couple of years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were a couple of other guys. There was a trumpet player who was a policeman.
Really?
When I was coming up. Donald Wilson was his name. I don't know whatever happened to him. Yeah, he would come to a jam session in his uniform.
In his police uniform?
Yeah.
With the badge and the gun on his hip too, still playing it.
And he could play.
He could play.
He could play, yeah. And his brother, Stanley, played piano.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's so many cats around there.
Yeah.
There was another piano player named John Ellis.
Okay.
Who was really good, really good,
Yeah.
So Philly had a lot of good players, Saxophone player, Jimmy Vass, Sonny Fortune.
Yes.
So we all hung out. Bass player, Don Moore.
Okay.
We all hung out together at that period. I was just out of high school then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So growing up like that with all these great players, it had to have a pretty profound impact on you and your early development.
Yeah. First was the experience of working with somebody like Jimmy Heath. So we'd work at the Northwest Club, and it was Jimmy Heath and Arthur Harper and Mickey Roker.
Yeah, all these guys.
Sam Reed sometimes.
Yep.
So it was just great. You couldn't buy experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was another club next to the Uptown Theater. I can't remember the name of it. It was a little after-hours club.
Yeah.
Open till like 5 or 6 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah.
The Uptown is still there.
Huh?
The Uptown Theater is still there.
Still there, yeah.
It's not open though.
Yeah.
It's just an abandoned building.
Oh wow, that's a shame.
Right now.
But the club was right next door.
Yeah.
A little doorway, you know.
So people could just leave the uptown and go in.
Yeah. You know, it was great. You know. Well, it's good days. Good days.
Yeah. What do you, if you had to give any advice to younger jazz musicians, what would that be?
Advice to younger jazz musicians?
Yeah, how do they, get better at their craft?
Well, aside from practicing, I think it's important to first of all listen to as much music as possible. Listen to as much different kinds of music, and be conversant with it. All kinds of music, and also play as much as possible. It would also play with people who are better than you. So that's how you learn. You play with people who are better. You play in different situations. Like playing a gig at the Uptown Theater. With the big band or playing somewhere. The kind of gigs I used to do. That's great experience. So and just to the experience. In terms of being employable, being able to play different kinds of music. I think that's important, because, sometimes you do have to work. So it enhances your chances of employment. Just being familiar with different kinds of music and being able to play it. I just heard, I didn't know he was so incredible, Christian. On pork chop, electric bass.
Another Philadelphian right there.
He's mean, boy. And then I remember I met him years ago. Him and Jody Francesco. I did me and Buster, I think it was. And Terry Lynn Carrington did a workshop in Philly at one of those schools.
One of the schools?
School for the Arts or something.
Oh, the Kimmel Center, maybe?
No, this is before the Kimmel Center.
Okay.
But
Kappa, Creative and Performing Arts.
It might be.
Okay.
Yeah, Christian was there, and Joey G. Francesco.
That's where they were the high school there.
They were all students there. And it turns out that Christian and I had the same band director.
Really?
Yes. In high school, the same band director I had in high school.
It's now his. Wow. It's pretty deep.
Connections,
Yeah. Wow. So you're getting ready to turn 80 in a few weeks.
In June.
June, okay, a few months. What's next for you?
I hope to continue playing. I'm not ready to check out yet.
Of course.
Well, as Ryan Carter would say, I have a few more choruses I want to play.
Okay, all right.
But one of the things I want to do, hopefully, I did already last year, in February, October, whatever it was. I always wanted to do a concert with strings.
Okay.
So I wound up doing that with in October up at Berkeley in Boston. And a gentleman named Eric Gould wrote string arrangements for about 10 of my compositions.
Wow.
We did it with the Berkeley String Orchestra. It was great. I mean, just to hear that behind you. So I want to do some more of that kind of stuff. And eventually I want to be able to do that myself, write for the strings. Start small and write for a string quartet and the trio, something like that. But I want to do more things like that.
That's great. Cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
All right.